For miraculous affirmations revealed to illuminate your day with divine power and supernatural focus in the quaint village of Elderwood, nestled between rolling hills, the air thrummed with excitement. The annual feast honoring their cherished patron saint drew near, its promise of joy and communion swirling with the scent of blooming buttercups. Families decorated public squares with vibrant banners, laughter echoing with anticipation. Yet, amid the jubilant arrangements, a thunderstorm loomed. Margaret's youngest child, Samuel, had fallen gravely ill. Panic gnawed at her heart as shadows crept through their once bright home, and dread settled in like an unwelcome guest. Their local doctor, a stern man whose pragmatic wisdom sometimes edged out divine hope, shook his head gravely. "It's serious," he declared, his voice heavy with skepticism. Margaret's heart sank. Could a mere mortal truly know the boundaries of the divine? With each word, doubt threatened to overwhelm her. She was tormented by the contrast between her role as a devoted mother and her deeply rooted beliefs in spiritual healing. Yet a spark ignited within her. Her breath steadied as she gathered her family close, urging them to kneel. "Let us pray," she said, clutching their hands tightly, her heart echoing the fervent prayers of generations past. They huddled together, a fragile but determined circle of warmth. As they prayed, tears streaming, Margaret felt a profound sensation wash over her, a whisper of cherished affirmation, a promise that faith could conquer despair. She saw Samuel's small, fragile form in her mind, and visions of miraculous healing filled her heart with light. But those lofty hopes dimmed when the doctor returned, reiterating his bleak outlook. The weight of doubt felt heavy as lead, sinking into their spirits. Margaret, desperate for strength, sought the embrace of her faith community. The village chapel, with its breathtaking stained-glass windows radiating hues of divine grace, welcomed her. "Come," she called, her voice a beacon in the encroaching darkness. "We must gather." As hearts united in prayer amidst flickering candlelight, Margaret felt the palpable presence of God, weaving through the congregation. Stories of miraculous healings bubbled forth, each like an ember igniting a bonfire. "I once prayed and found my sight restored," one elder shared, his voice breaking with gratitude. Another experienced a transformation just as astonishing. Each testimony fortified their spirits, reminders of divine intercession coursing through generations. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each prayer rising, Margaret felt a flicker of hope reigniting, but fear still whispered in her ear. Could they truly witness a miracle? The vigil carried on, prayers intertwined with hushed sobs and whispered hopes. Just as Margaret's doubts threatened to swallow her, something extraordinary began to unfold. Samuel stirred, his frail body seemingly responding to the fervent prayers surrounding him. Gasps filled the chapel as joy erupted like a wildfire, but in Margaret's heart, uncertainty still lingered. As dawn approached, illuminating the village in a golden embrace, the air crackled with the potential of the extraordinary. Would this healing unify them as a community, or would the lurking shadows of doubt extinguish the flicker of faith? Each heartbeat echoed the question that now consumed her: could mere mortals truly hold the key to miracles? The answer hung in the air, waiting for the sun to rise. As the sun stretched its golden limbs over Elderwood, its rays poured into the chapel, illuminating the faces of prayerful souls. The early morning light danced upon the stained-glass windows, casting vibrant colors into the sacred space. Margaret opened her eyes, her heart racing with hope, yet her mind tangled with haunting doubts. Samuel's breath had steadied among the hushed prayers, but would the dawn bring healing or heartache? The chapel was simmering with an electric atmosphere. Believers gathered in groups, speaking in hushed tones, sharing stories while moving gracefully about the room. Whispers of Samuel's stirring traveled beneath the arching ceilings, combining into one gentle hum of expectation. Each person who had come held their own miracle stories close to their hearts, But as Margaret scanned their faces, she saw her own reflection of yearning in them. "Please God, let it be Samuel," she mouthed silently. Just then, a steady, familiar voice broke through the peaceful din. Father Thomas stepped forward, his gentle demeanor radiant with compassion. "Today, we stand at a crossroads," he began, his voice steady, imbued with faith. "Some may harbor doubt as a shield against hope, fearing disappointment has become a companion too long. But we must remember, where there is faith, there is grace. A loving God desires to pour His mercy upon us like rain upon parched ground." Margaret felt a ripple of collective awe sweep through the congregation. Father Thomas's words felt like cold water on a fevered brow, soothing the shadows of despair. "Let us not forsake our belief. Miracles are not just stories, they are the threads woven into the very fabric of our existence," he proclaimed, raising his arms, calling forth every ounce of divine belief in the people around him. He urged them to gather closer, inviting them into a chorus of harmonious faith. Margaret clutched her family tighter, feeling the warmth of their connection strengthening with each prayer. She closed her eyes once more, envisioning Samuel. In her mind, she saw him bouncing back to life, filled with laughter that rang like sweet bells through summer air. Then, as they joined in a fervent prayer, something remarkable began to unfold. An inexplicable warmth filled the room, hovering thick and golden. The air shimmered with energy, hearts quickening, as if the Spirit of God was brushing through their midst. Margaret's instincts whispered that hope was on the precipice of reality. A sudden gasp broke through the fervent prayers, drawing every eye towards Samuel, who had not just stirred but sat up, blinking in the warm light, confusion transforming into recognition. Joy erupted within the walls of the chapel. People clutched each other, tears streaming down cheeks, joyful, radiant tears. "Thank you, Lord. Thank you," rang through the air as friends embraced, hearts swelling with gratitude. Yet within the swell of celebration, a tender voice echoed through Margaret's mind. Would Samuel's recovery truly fortify their faith? Would this miracle be a bridge into the deeper understanding of God's will? The village erupted in joyful singing, but in her heart, Margaret still clung to the delicate thread of uncertainty. The chorus of praise overshadowed her doubts, but even as the harmony soared higher, she couldn't shake the deeper question lingering at the back of her mind. What awaited them in the days to come? The fitting culmination of this miraculous moment seemed to hang like an unanswered prayer in the air. What lay ahead for Samuel, for their family, and for a village so deeply intertwined with faith? As the last notes of praise faded, a silence settled over the chapel, pregnant with possibility. The next chapter was about to unfold in Elderwood. The silence in the chapel lingered, thick and charged, as Margaret's heart raced with all that had just unfolded. Samuel sat there, eyes wide, wrestling confusion with the lingering warmth of love that surrounded him. The villagers stood, frozen in a moment that felt suspended in time. No one spoke, they were entranced by the miracle right before their eyes. Father Thomas observed the crowd, a proud smile slowly spreading across his face. "Let us rejoice. Our brother Samuel has returned to us." His voice broke through the stillness like the first light of dawn. Immediate cheers erupted, echoing against the walls of the chapel. Hands were lifted high, voices melded in harmony, and the air turned electric again with praise. Margaret felt her spirit soar. Praise flowed like a river as she joined in the chorus of gratefulness. Yet still, a whisper tugged at her heart, soft yet insistent. What would the days to come hold for Samuel? How could they ensure this miracle was not merely a fleeting moment but the catalyst for a deeper journey into faith? Samuel, now fully upright and alert, blinked and focused his gaze on Margaret. She rushed to him, enveloping him in a fierce embrace. "I was so frightened, love. I prayed, we all prayed," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Samuel took a deep breath, his eyes shimmering with a mixture of gratitude and serenity. Somehow, the touch of the community, intertwined with prayer, wove a blanket of strength over him. As the congregation began to disperse, the weight of reality pressed upon Margaret once more. What now? She pondered silently. Would they delve deeper into this miracle, walk hand in hand with God's plan, or would they settle back into the rhythm of life before the incident? The villagers trickled out into the sunlight, their joy spilling over into the streets. Laughter and song spiraled into the air as if the entirety of Elderwood was reborn in light and faith. But Margaret felt a stillness nestled deep within her, urging her to seek understanding beyond the immediate celebration. "Margaret, come see the flowers," called a friendly voice from the doorway. It was Ruth, her closest friend and confidant. Ruth's eyes sparkled as she beckoned her to join. "Come. The garden has never looked brighter." Margaret hesitated, torn between joining the festivities outside or capturing the stillness that clung to her heart. She gazed back at Samuel, who was being welcomed by neighbors, a wide smile splitting his face. The warmth of their embrace drew her in, but the gentle nudge within felt insistent. "I'll join you in a moment," she replied to Ruth, still captivated by the contrasts surrounding her, the joy of reunion and the weight of questions yet unknown. As she turned her eyes back to the altar, a flicker of movement caught her attention. There, in the corner, a flickering candle stood, its flame wavering yet resilient. "What do you want to tell me?" she murmured, feeling a pull towards the stillness. In that instant, she felt a surge of warmth, a divine energy coursing through her, filling her heart with a serene resolve. The questions began to clear like a fog lifting at dawn. She knew she needed answers, not just for Samuel's sake but for her own. Her faith demanded exploration, her spirit craved understanding. What did God desire from her in the wake of this miracle? How would she embrace the lessons hidden in this experience? As she took a step closer to the flickering candle, a newfound courage surged within her. "Lord, guide me," she whispered, firm in her resolve. Would the light be revealed as she sought it? Margaret felt the mystery closing in, but with it, a deep promise there was more waiting just beyond the veil. As she left the chapel, determination burning in her heart, she couldn't help but wonder what revelations awaited her as she stepped into this vibrant web of faith that enveloped Elderwood. Would Samuel's healing lead to new depths of connection with God and each other? Life in this small village was changing, and Margaret felt the stirring of something magnificent yet unformed. What divine purpose was waiting to unfold? As Margaret stepped out of the chapel, the sun burst forth, a radiant orb amidst the expanse of blue sky. It cast a golden hue that danced across the cobbled streets of Elderwood, enveloping everything in warmth, much like the embrace of the resurrected faith surrounding her. She took a deep breath, filling her lungs with the scent of blooming flowers, the promise of life emerging anew. The villagers were still rejoicing, their laughter echoing in her ears like a soft melody. Yet, amidst the joyous sounds, she felt a peculiar sense of urgency. The miracle she had just witnessed, the revival of Samuel, was not meant to be just a fleeting event. It was the start of something far more profound, a calling that tugged gently at the core of her being. "Margaret, come see the beauties in the garden." Ruth laughed, her eyes full of joy. But Margaret's mind was elsewhere, her heart ignited with divine inquiry. She smiled at Ruth, but her thoughts were lost in prayer. "Lord, what am I to learn? What is the larger purpose within this miracle?" she murmured under her breath, moving towards Samuel, who was now surrounded by a circle of adoring neighbors. Their faces glowed with admiration, faces transformed by the light of hope. As she approached him, Samuel's gaze met hers. There was an unspoken understanding shimmering between them. He sensed her unrest, the ripples of doubt that still washed over her, despite the miraculous event. "I feel different, Margaret," he stated, his voice firm yet soft. "Not just alive, but transformed." She nodded, seeing in him the embodiment of faith renewed. "What do you think it means?" she asked softly, her heart racing in anticipation for his response. I think it means we have a mission now. God brought me back, but for what? There must be more we're meant to do," Samuel responded, his eyes searching hers for affirmation. A warm breeze stirred, carrying whispers of distant prayers and laughter that faded into the background. The weight of his words sunk into her heart, filling her with both fear and excitement. What kind of mission could possibly unfold from this moment? How would they discern the divine path set before them? They stood together, embraced by the warm sun and surrounded by the clamor of busy villagers, yet feeling as if they were wrapped within their own cocoon of understanding. Time still felt suspended, and Margaret realized that their journey had just begun. Let us not just celebrate this healing, Samuel. Let us seek God's purpose together. We need to understand how we can give back to our community after all that has happened, she suggested, feeling a spark of inspiration. Samuel brightened at her words. You're right. The village has supported me, prayed for me. We must find a way to share this miracle, make it a beacon of hope for all. As they walked towards the gathering groups of villagers, the spirit of kindness and gratitude enveloped them. Margaret felt lightness in her heart, a small yet burning flame that whispered, faith is active, not passive. Their lives were now intertwined with a mission that called for boldness. Amidst friendly faces, she caught sight of the candle still flickering in her mind, urging her on. The words of Father Thomas echoed in her heart, rejoice. They could be vessels of joy and reconciliation for those who yearned for hope just as they had. Yet, beneath her excitement lay a rising question. What trials would they have to face to fulfill this mission? Samuel, are you ready to step beyond this miracle into something bigger? She asked tentatively, heart fluttering at the thought of the unknown. He smiled back at her, steadfast and resolute. With God beside us, I believe we can face anything. Together, they turned back to the joyous crowd, eager to share their vision, a vision that would reach far beyond the walls of the chapel. As laughter rang and voices lifted in praise, Margaret realized that their true journey was only just beginning. What challenges awaited them as they embarked on this path? What divine encounters would shape their story next? The vibrant festival atmosphere of Elderwood wrapped around Margaret and Samuel like a cherished blanket. Villagers danced with uncontained joy, their faces lit by the golden sunlight. But the embrace of celebration felt different for Margaret. A deeper purpose shimmered just beyond her grasp, waiting patiently to be revealed. Let us gather everyone at the chapel, Samuel suggested, looking around at the crowd. Let us share what we've seen. They need to hear about God's work in my life. His enthusiasm was contagious, stirring a shared sense of anticipation within her. Still, lingering questions echoed in her mind, but she couldn't let doubt smother the flickering flame of hope ignited by the miracle. As they made their way towards the chapel, Margaret's spirit soared higher with each step. What if they want to know how this miracle happened? She pondered aloud, glancing sideways at Samuel. The thought was both exhilarating and intimidating. I think it's more than just about me, Samuel replied quietly, his hand brushing against hers as if to share strength. It's about us. It's about our faith. The miracle isn't only in my return but in the unity we'll show as a community. A wave of warmth filled her heart. Samuel was right, it was not just about one person revived. It was about the collective spirit of the village. It was about hope woven into the fabric of their lives, challenging them to step out in faith. Once inside the chapel, the atmosphere shifted subtly. Candles flickered as faces turned toward Samuel and Margaret, eager for the testimony that would surely flow. The air felt thick with expectation, a sacred stillness that reminded her of the hallowed ground beneath their feet. Friends, Samuel announced, his voice steady and strong, reverberating off the wooden beams of the chapel. I stand here today not just alive, but transformed, renewed in spirit. God has given me another chance, and I believe it is for a purpose that extends beyond me. Margaret felt the power in his words, a surge of strength emanating from him, igniting fire in the hearts of those gathered. Eyes widened, mouths whispered praise, and hearts embraced the divine invitation to witness something extraordinary. I can't explain how or why it happened, he continued, but I felt God's presence throughout my darkest moments. There is a calling for each of us to share that light with the world. This miracle doesn't belong only to me but to everyone ready to believe. A quiet murmur of awe swept through the crowd. Margaret's own faith, so often fragile in doubt, began to solidify. Samuel's commitment to purpose, his willingness to proclaim the goodness of God, seemed to awaken dormant dreams in those around him. What if, Margaret thought, this miracle is a spark igniting a greater movement of faith among us? In that moment, she knew they needed to act. Let us open our hearts fully, she suggested, stepping forward, her voice intertwining with Samuel's. Let us share our stories, our struggles and triumphs to build bridges of faith and love in this community. The enthusiastic nods and murmurs of agreement from the villagers were a tangible confirmation that their journey would not be solitary but collectively prophetic. As stories began to spill forth tales of heartbreak, healing, and hope, Margaret sensed an electric shift. Miracles were not confined to the extraordinary, they were echoing in the hearts of everyone present. Together, they were a testament to the transformative power of faith. But then, a shadow crossed her heart as she remembered, every purpose has trials. What sort of challenges would come? Would they be prepared to withstand them? As they gathered in prayer, she bowed her head, seeking clarity. She felt Samuel's presence beside her, a steady encouragement as anticipation built in the air. Would God reveal the next step soon, or was there something more they needed to learn first? The congregation rose, united in faith, but that divine mystery lingered heavily on Margaret's heart, a beacon of questions yet unanswered. What trials loomed on the horizon? Would they possess the strength to face them together, armed with renewed hope and faith? What further divine revelations awaited them as the mission unfolded? A gentle hum of voices began to fill the chapel, mingling with the flickers of candlelight. Margaret raised her gaze to the faces of her neighbors, their eyes glistening with tears and joy. Each story shared was a thread, weaving them closer together, creating a tapestry of faith that shimmered in the golden light. It felt like a collective heartbeat, throbbing with the promise of transformation. "Remember when the flood took our crops?" an elderly man began, his voice quivering with emotion. "We thought despair had claimed us. But then we came together, united in prayer. The rain stopped, and the harvest flourished. God was with us, showed us resilience." His hands trembled as he spoke, but clarity and conviction rang from his words. Margaret felt a warmth spreading through her. She thought of her own struggles, her own dark nights filled with uncertainty. Can these stories truly inspire change? She wondered, glancing toward Samuel. He beamed back at her, encouraging her silent question. A woman rose to speak, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "After losing my husband, I thought I was broken. But I felt God pulling me back, nudging me to help others who grieved. I discovered joy again and purpose." Each word seemed to land softly, yet with an undeniable impact, creating a quiet resilience within those gathered. Margaret's heart echoed their sentiments. Life was a series of trials, a mosaic of shattered pieces that when held to the light created beauty. Could their stories, woven together, build a foundation strong enough to face whatever hardships lay ahead? "Yes," Samuel exclaimed, his excitement radiating. "Each story is a testimony of faith that speaks volume. We've all faced storms, but more importantly, we discovered that we need not weather them alone." Cheers of agreement filled the chapel, the sound a glorious chorus of shared hopes. Hands reached out, clasping each other as an act of solidarity. The village had always been a close-knit community, but in this moment, they seemed more like a family, knit together by the threads of shared faith and hardship. Yet, amid the joyful noise, Margaret still felt the shadow of uncertainty hovering. The trials that lay ahead felt like a solemn whisper, reminding her that challenges were part of the divine path. What if, she thought, the unity we're building here attracts the very struggles we fear? Samuel seemed to sense her inner turmoil. "We can face whatever comes our way together. Each of us carries the light of Christ. That light is stronger than any darkness." His words resonated deeply, yet Margaret couldn't shake her doubts completely. What if their faith was tested in ways they couldn't possibly anticipate? The service molded into a time of prayer, and as they lifted their hearts to God, Margaret felt a stirring in her spirit. A divine urge gently prompted her to speak once more. "Let us prepare, not just to celebrate but to stand firm. We should brainstorm ways we can support each other in trials ahead." The chorus of "Amen" echoed, as people nodded and murmured in agreement. Ideas began to flow: support groups, community gatherings, shared resources. It felt as if the heavens were smiling down upon them, for hope kindled within the chapel. Yet, Margaret couldn't ignore a feeling of urgency gnawing in her stomach. Would the paths they chose lead them towards new trials? What new revelations awaited them on their journey? As Samuel closed the service, the congregation erupted into a joyful song of praise, filling the walls of the chapel with heartfelt worship. Margaret stood in awe, a part of something profound, yet she remained haunted by the unfolding mystery ahead. What test would deepen their faith? Would they be ready when the trials came knocking, challenging their unity? In those questions resided not just the weight of worry but the flicker of divine anticipation as well. Tomorrow, the village would step further into their journey. What awaited them beyond the horizon of their faith? The morning sun peeked through the stained glass windows, illuminating the chapel in a soft embrace of colors. Margaret stood before the congregation, the echo of the previous night's prayers still humming in her heart. Today was different. There was a sense of expectancy buzzing in the air, like the vibrant energy just before a storm. Each face in the crowd was familiar, yet she now saw them with fresh eyes. They were not just neighbors, they were warriors of faith, ready to uplift one another through whatever trials may come. She felt something stirring deep within her spirit awakened with a newfound sense of purpose. Brothers and sisters, she began, her voice unwavering, we have shared our stories, and they have built a foundation among us. But what is that foundation without action? We are called to prepare our hearts and minds for the challenges that lie before us. An amening chorus erupted softly, reverberating the determination in the room. Then, Samuel stood up, his presence commanding attention. Margaret's right. Faith is not simply about what we say, it is about what we do. Our stories are powerful, but let us also be the hands and feet of Christ. Let us put flesh to our prayers, moving beyond mere words. His words sent ripples of inspiration through the crowd. Ideas began to burst forth like spring blooms, vibrant and full of life. Someone suggested organizing a community garden, another proposed regular gatherings to share meals and stories. Ideas flowed, each a testament to their connection and desire to act in faith. Margaret could feel hope igniting. Yet the tendrils of worry still wove through her thoughts. Would these actions indeed fortify them against the trials to come? The wind had a way of blowing unexpectedly, they could not predict what lay ahead. As the meeting progressed, an old woman spoke up, her voice gentle yet firm. In our lives, we often face storms. But remember the story of Jesus calming the wind and waves. He showed us that He is with us, that we are never alone. This resonated with everyone, a reminder of the eternal truths they had clung to through years of uncertainty. In the midst of these affirmations, Margaret cast her gaze to the window where light streamed through, reflecting off dust motes that danced in the air. She was reminded of how, sometimes, the most beautiful reflections come from that which is unseen to the naked eye. Just like light illuminates these shadows, she said softly, so does our faith light the way through difficult times. We must trust that even in the darkest valleys, there is hope ahead. The congregation remained united in purpose, but her heart still felt the weight of questions unasked. What battles would they face? What challenges would shake their resolve? Amidst the buoyant atmosphere, her spirit felt both uplifted and anxious, waiting for clarity. As they formulated their plans, the prayer circle came together, hands clasped in sacred unity. Together, they called upon God to guide them through any adversities ahead. Margaret felt a profound peace settle around her, even as the whispering uncertainties danced just out of her reach. A gentle reminder echoed in Margaret's spirit. In the end, faith is more than the absence of fear, it's the presence of hope. When their hearts were full of reverence and hope, Samuel leaned in closer. Today, we set our intentions, but what if tomorrow reveals something we never imagined? Something that will test everything we believe? His words hung in the air, leaving a lingering question not only in Margaret's mind but also in the hearts of everyone present. They were ready for action, yes, but what would those actions require of their faith? What revelations awaited them just on the edge of dawn? With a collective breath, they realized their journey was just beginning, and they stood on the cusp of revealing something miraculous. The horizon glimmered with promise as they whispered their hopes and fears into the vast unknown. What awaited on this path of faith? What divine surprises lingered just around the corner? It was a question filled with both trembling anticipation and sacred resolve. The evening sun cast long shadows across the chapel, enveloping the congregation in a warm glow that seemed to cradle them. They shared their intentions in hushed tones, as if speaking them aloud could summon forth the very promises they longed for. Margaret felt that familiar stirring once more. She couldn't shake the feeling that something transformative was about to unfold. As thoughts turned to their community garden, the shared meals, and stories that would nourish not only their bodies but their souls, Margaret's heart raced. She glanced at the faces surrounding her, a tapestry of hope and determination. It was as if each smile radiated light, a reflection of the Spirit working through them. Yet, the clouds of uncertainty lingered just beyond her vision. Samuel's question about tomorrow echoed in her mind like a gentle but persistent breeze. Would their good intentions withstand the weight of what might come? Just then, Daniel, a young man with a compassionate heart, stood up. "Let me remind you, remember the loaves and fish?" His voice was steady, and eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. Jesus took what was meager and made it abundant. When the crowd was hungry, a simple offering turned into a feast. We have to trust that whatever little we have, our prayer, our time, our faith, He can multiply it beyond our understanding. A murmur of agreement swirled through the room. The truth of His words settled like a warm blanket over them. Margaret felt a flicker of courage burn brighter within her. They were capable of more than they realized. "Let us not forget to pray for guidance every step of the way," she suggested, her voice rising with conviction. "Let us ask for clarity when the way seems obscured. Together, we can face whatever comes, equipped with faith and love. And here's a thought, when we feel weak, let us lean on one another." "Yes. Lean on each other," another voice chimed in. The energy in the room shifted, wings of hope fluttering above them. Laughter sprinkled the atmosphere, a vibrant reminder that joy still abides in the heart of their struggles. With every word shared, Margaret felt the weight of worry lift slightly. The reality of shared faith fortified their spirits, like stones in a solid wall. And yet, questions still danced on the edges of her mind. How deeply would their faith be tested? Would their bonds prove strong enough against unforeseen storms? Outside, the wind began to weave through the trees, whispering secrets as if the very earth was responding to their aspirations. A cool burst of air swept through the chapel, striking Margaret as an omen, both unsettling and exhilarating. She didn't want to sound alarmed, but she sensed a shift. Then, a slight tremor in the stillness broke the gathers. Old Mrs. Haddock leaned forward. Her voice, always frail but rich in wisdom, caught their attention. "We must remember, dear ones, that God is full of surprises. When things seem to unravel, there is often a greater thread being woven just out of sight." Her words landed gently on Margaret's heart. She felt the truth of them, resonating with the essence of their gathering and their hopes. What unseen plans was God fashioning? Perhaps the trials that frightened them were the very experiences meant to unveil miracles. A soft prayer rose spontaneously from the group, encircling them within a tender embrace of faith. They prayed not just for strength against potential tribulations, but for eyes to see the wonders God might unveil through their journey. As the gathering began to close, Margaret knew they had ignited something special. But still, a nagging curiosity teased her spirit. What challenges awaited them? What miraculous affirmations would be unveiled as they walked deeper into their faith? The excitement was palpable, each heartbeat resonant with anticipation. As Margaret looked around one last time, she felt a pull towards the unknown, ready to embrace whatever it may bring. What did God have planned for them on this treacherous yet beautiful path? Tomorrow was veiled in divine mystery, waiting to unveil the fullness of His purpose. The dawn would break, and with it, answers to the questions they could scarcely begin to form. The morning sun peeked timidly through the clouds, casting a soft, golden hue over the chapel. As Margaret arrived, the anticipation in the air was tangible. A gentle hum of conversation buzzed about, mingling with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and warm bread. It felt as if the heavens held their breath in expectation. Today, they would meet in the garden, a place of growth and transformation. Their hands would dig into the earth, just as their hearts sought to cultivate faith. Margaret smiled, recalling Daniel's words from the night before, and how they rallied together, ready to brace any challenge. The community gathered around a circular table adorned with flowers from last year's harvest. Each face reflected the same mix of excitement and uncertainty. Margaret could feel the pulse of hope among them. "Let us share our morning prayers," she suggested. They all bowed their heads, and a deep stillness filled the room, wrapping them like a warm embrace. "I am grateful for the chance to serve," Samuel started, his voice steady yet tender. "May we find strength as we work together today." The others nodded, one by one speaking words of blessing and gratitude, like bricks building a sanctuary of intention. When the prayers softened into silence, Margaret felt a nudge of inspiration. "Let us start a small challenge," she proposed, her heart racing with the excitement of new beginnings. "We each bring something small to our offering today, a seed, a story, a prayer, something from our hearts that we can contribute." The murmurs of agreement returned, sparking a flame of enthusiasm as they prepared mentally and spiritually for the journey ahead. Whispers of seeds were shared, along with laughter and visions of flourishing blossoms. Each person's contribution mattered, illuminating how fruitful their collective effort would be. As they ventured outside, the sun broke fully free from the clouds, illuminating the garden like a sacred place. Bright greens and browns flourished as if the earth itself celebrated their commitment. Margaret watched as each member began to plant their offering, hands deep in the soil, their spirits tethered to the same purpose. Suddenly, a rustle in the bushes caught her attention. A small rabbit emerged, hopping curiously towards Daniel. The laughter that erupted reminded them of the simple joys that life offers. "Maybe that rabbit knows something we don't," someone chuckled, and their shared laughter echoed in the garden, leaving traces of joy in the air. Margaret knelt beside Daniel, who was carefully placing a seedling in the ground. "What do you think will happen as we nurture these seeds?" she asked. His eyes sparkled with the wisdom of youthful faith. "They might grow into something beautiful, nourishing others, and us too," he replied. Just then, an unexpected gust of wind swept through the garden, rustling the leaves and stirring their hearts. Margaret felt a prickling at the back of her neck. "God's breath is here," she murmured softly, and her words hung in the air, heavy with significance. The world outside seemed to dim momentarily, as if sacred space had descended upon them. Around them, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying secrets only they could feel. In that moment, a sense of unity flooded her heart, binding every soul in the garden. But then, beneath the surface of this tranquility, a thought persisted: what awaited them as they poured their efforts into this garden? What real challenges were on the horizon? What growth would emerge in them as well? As they continued to sow and plant, Margaret whispered a silent prayer. It was both a plea and an invitation. "Lord, open our eyes to marvel at your plans," she breathed, longing for clarity and the embrace of divine insight. What exactly would unfold upon their journey? She sensed that answers were just beyond reach, waiting to illuminate something beyond their imagination. The sun rose, casting its warm rays over the community garden, where vibrant colors danced and twinkled like stars emerging at dawn. The earthy aroma of freshly turned soil mingled with the laughter of children and the harmony of voices raised in prayer. Margaret stood at the edge, a deep breath of gratitude filling her chest. They had come together, bonded not just by their stories, but by a divine purpose. Today was not just about planting seeds in the ground, it was about planting seeds of faith in their hearts and community. Samuel, now filled with vitality, had taken the lead, guiding hands of all ages. "Remember, each seed is a testament to our faith and hope," he declared, unfurling his arms wide, inviting the eager young ones next to him. Margaret felt a warmth swell inside her as she marveled at the transformation. The miracle wasn't just Samuel's revival. It had cascaded across the community, lighting hearts on fire with purpose. Laughter filled the garden, each joyful voice weaving a tapestry of unity. But beneath that joyous surface, doubt still crept in, reminding her of the trials they had spoken of. What challenges would emerge as they ventured deeper into their faith? Were they truly ready to face adversity, or would they fold like a withered leaf at the first gust of wind? Just then, a sudden rustling echoed from the treeline, and the villagers turned their heads in unison. A figure emerged, clad in the tattered remnants of a once fine coat. It was a stranger, a weary traveler whose face bore the lines of burden, a grim story untold. He stumbled into their midst, panting, as the sun highlighted the dust and weariness etched across his skin. "Help me," he gasped, and at his desperate plea, everything came to stillness. Hearts quaked, realizing that the moment they feared had arrived. Uncertainty began to grip Margaret's heart. "Who are you?" Samuel stepped forward, a mix of apprehension and curiosity reflected in his eyes. "I'm lost," the man replied, trembling. "I fled from despair. I long for hope but find only shadows." The words struck deeply, resonating with every soul present. Margaret's heart raced. This man needed what they had: a faith restored, a community rekindled, the miraculous affirmations they had begun to uncover. But would her own fears dismiss this moment, or would they rise up and embrace the challenge together? "Brothers and sisters," she called, her voice steady now with clarity, "this man embodies the uncertainty we all face. Let us hold him tightly in our prayers and actions. Let us not turn away. We must be the very hands of grace we've spoken of in our plans." As she spoke, she saw the glimmers of acknowledgement ripple through the crowd. One by one, faces softened, and hearts opened. They stepped forward, forming a circle of compassion around the weary traveler. Together, hands reached out, clasping his, welcoming him like a lost brother. "How about we share our stories next?" Ruth quipped gently, her voice soothing and warm. The villagers nodded, a ripple of support flowing through the garden. They began to share tales of resilience and hope, each story lacing their lives together tighter reminders that community illuminated the darkest paths. Margaret felt the power of their assembly hum through her veins. This was the moment they were designed for, to be a light for those in despair. They weren't merely a group, they were warriors bringing joy and love forth into the world, equipped with the stories of hope. As they prayed for the stranger who stood among them, a transformation unfolded. The man's stooped shoulders began to release, his grim expression eased by the warmth enveloping him. Tears of joy streamed down his cheeks, his heart finally embraced in the fellowship of shared humanity. A spark ignited within Margaret. This was what God had intended. Each seed planted in their garden today wasn't merely for themselves but for all those who needed sustenance. In their willingness to face this moment, they had found divine purpose. "Together we are stronger," Samuel exclaimed, inspired by the miraculous unity they were cultivating. "May we stand as a testament to what it means to walk in faith through the storms and rejoice in the beauty of hope." As dusk began to paint the sky with strokes of orange and purple, Margaret felt a sense of fulfillment wash over her. They had faced the challenges head-on, and they would continue to do so. This sacred space now belonged to every heart that shouted for love and hope. When they finally gathered to pray, the air hummed with reverence. "Lord," Margaret began, "thank you for bringing us together, for the stranger who reminded us of your grace. May we continue to bear witness to every miracle, for we now know that in faith, we are never truly lost." The pews of the garden glowed with hope as the prayer soared high. Margaret acknowledged their journey was just beginning. The waters ahead still held their mysteries. But with every shared moment, they had proven that no matter what trials lay before them, they would walk hand in hand, fortified by faith. As the night fell elegantly over Elderwood, laughter danced into the twilight, whispering of the miracles yet to come. This was their moment, a promise that in faith, every shadow would bow to the light. Now, I need you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive faith stories that inspire and uplift. Leave a like now, each click feeds the algorithm, allowing more souls to be reached with hope. Comment your reactions and personal testimonies about this ending, we want to celebrate together. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this divine manifestation in their lives. This is the moment to show your support for pure faith and heavenly promises. Don't wait one more second. Only true servants of God understand how crucial your actions are.